Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, Dave Patterson, Graham Noble, and John Clark. And this is The Conservative Five, an online TV production of Liberty Nation News. On today's episode, and they're off, having some fun on the Hill as Trump's cabinet hearings are underway, we'll recap some of the barking and hissing in confirmations are fun. President Trump ushered in his vision for America with high hopes, and we'll recap the events of the day in the Golden Age. The Department of Government Efficiency is in the hands of Elon Musk, and it's causing progressive heartburn in DOGE. Who is in charge of this thing? Finally, it's another quick fix to flex the brain in Just for Fun, Volume 63. All this and more in this edition of The Conservative Five. If you have all day long to take in the Senate confirmation hearings, then retirement is being good to you. It's been a lot of spicy talk between senators and candidates, and it would appear that Trump's people are winning the votes. A good hearing involves elected officials asking pertinent questions. Well, Dave, has that even happened, or are we still asking ridiculous things? And also, along the lines of the intro, tell us about Marco Rubio's swearing in.
Well, let's talk about his confirmation hearing first. I mean, it was a love-in, right? I mean, everybody was pretty complimentary to Marco Rubio. But to his credit, he did not take this as an abrogation of his responsibility to explain exactly what he was about. And he's about President Trump's business. Secretary of State, he was sworn in on Tuesday, and Vice President J.D. Vance officiated. And as you would expect, the Rubio family was present. And during his little talk, Secretary Rubio reiterated what we all wanted to hear. He told the audience that the priority of the United States Department of State will be the United States. Oh, my gosh. What a concept. It's been long absent from Bob Burnham. No, he also restated what he said in his confirmation hearing, which I think is important, and that is that the State Department's job will be to make the U.S. stronger, safer, and more prosperous. And that's what we all want. If U.S. foreign policies don't do that, he said, then they won't be U.S. foreign policies. And oh, by the way, one of the executive orders that President Trump just put out was that there would be only one flag flying over the embassies and agencies outside the United States, and that's the United States American flag.
Hey, Money Man, let's talk Scott Bassett and Russell Vought. Vote. Should have told me how to say that.
Yeah, all the senators, they were saying something. They kept saying Vought. They kept asking, how you say it again? What's your name again?
Okay, well, to Mr. Vote, I apologize, and I won't get it wrong again. So anyway, thank you guys. Let's go.
These hearings. Oh my goodness, I watch all these hearings for years and years and years. And toward the end of it, when I see the Republican or Democrat side empty, I think, oh, okay, it's going to come to an end soon. And then I see another senator just pop up out of nowhere and ask questions. It just goes on and on. So anyway, okay. So the first one, Scott Bessent, he is the U.S. Treasury nominee. He's a billionaire financier. He worked with George Soros. He at the Senate Finance Committee, they advanced his confirmation to the Senate floor thanks to two Democrats, Warner and Hassan, joining the Republicans. Now, that hearing, it was based mostly on him promoting the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, or TCJA, defending Trump's tariff plans and all that stuff. But a lot of Democrats are upset because because of some tax dispute that he's having with the IRS. Ron Wyden said that Bessent wasn't prepared for these hearings because he was stuttering and stammering and pausing. And I watched Bessent many times in the media and these hearings, and there is some truth to that. He's not very good in front of the press. He's a smart guy. He has all the great qualification, which everyone said he does. He's a billionaire for a reason. He's not the Trumpian type to appear in front of the lawmakers. Now, the second one, Mr. Vote. He's a former Heritage Foundation individual. He was head of a sister organization. He wrote one chapter of Project 2025, but they all say he's the co-author. So the main thing with Russell Vought is that they're worried about his view of the purse strings. Does the executive branch have the power or Congress? They're worried that the White House will withhold funding appropriated by Congress. They were citing a 1974 law that says that provides guardrails for the president, so he can't slash any funding or cancel any funding from the Congress. So it's all about the brass tacks with Bessent and Vought, but it looks like at the time of this recording, anyway, that they're going to be confirmed for these positions.
Hey, well, that's good to know. And gosh, what a wide variety of people right there. Both spectrums of affiliations, let's say. John Clark, what's going on with Robert Kennedy Jr. and Brooke Rollins?
Yeah, I think I have the toughest confirmation and the easiest one to discuss here. Andrew speaking reminds me, though, it seems that no matter who this president nominates, they're going to complain. I was joking through the process that he should promote or nominate Kamala Harris, maybe for Department of Education. Then he could just, wipe it out afterwards. But I wonder if they would go against Kamala Harris. Does anyone meet their requirements? Brooke Rollins, I don't think, is going to have a problem. I think they will be hammering her on the farm bill, on I've seen Politico and others talking about how Americans' grocery prices are going to go through the roof if you deport illegals. I'm here to tell you that's not the case. In fact,
that is not true. That is not the case.
Talk about waste. We have plenty of legal immigrants and legal Americans and more mechanization. That is just totally false. They can't go after, there have been some questions about her finances. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Some have said she doesn't have the experience. Whoop-de-doo. It's not an issue. She doesn't seem to have any criminal felony convictions, sexual assaults, or I haven't seen any pictures of her in blackface. So, and they've even been going after her husband. So I think the hearing will be focused on the farm bill and potentially tariffs, which, like DOGE, I think it's wise that they are taking it slowly despite the rhetoric. Now, in Kennedy's case, he hasn't even been scheduled yet. And of course, we all know that there's just a firestorm surrounding him. And I find this interesting. The chief complaint seemed to be his abortion stance, and he's been a flip-flopper. And so that means he's managed to upset both sides on that. I don't think it's going to carry much weight. I think what's going to be the focus is that Big Pharma does not like him. Big Pharma controls MSM, and a lot of our other education and other institutions have way too much influence. This guy is a real threat to them. And by the way, he's another example of why there's no shadow presidency in Elon Musk. Donald Trump has shown he's willing to share power in the form of delegating the Maha agenda to Bobby Kennedy. And they don't want to make America healthy again if it means questioning vaccines again. Here's my take. I think Kennedy will get confirmed for two reasons. One is I saw one, I think it was USA Today, says he's created this image of himself as a toxic anti-vaxxer. No, actually, mainstream media created that. He's not completely anti-vax. And when he gets in front of the American people and these Congress people, some of whom he's already turning, he is extraordinarily intelligent. He has a great command of the facts. He's a very experienced litigation attorney. He speaks very forcefully, and I think he will dance circles around them when they circle around him. And I think he will counter their complaints and just prove that he's not there to make us all die because we don't have the next Bill Gates mRNA mosquito creation. But another thing that is a backdrop here is if there's one candidate that it would be really a third rail for Democrats to touch, it would be getting rid of this one because he's the walkaway and he has the libertarians behind him. And he has a certain component of this whole agenda, which has, been relegated to him. And a lot of Americans, when 90% of Americans say they want beef tallow back in their Steak and Shake restaurant, which will be coming up in an article. I'm talking 90%. Was that bipartisan? I mean, Republicans want to eat the junk food, right? So it has to be, and I'm seeing it. A lot of Democrats like that part of the messaging about MAHA, about ultra-processed foods. It's not just the focus on vaccines that Big Pharma and the extremists want to make it. I think Canada will go through, and if not, there's going to be political hell to pay. If not right now, then in 2 years when the Democrats who wouldn't approve him answer to their own constituents about where their priorities are.
Well, I can't wait to go to Steak and Shake. Anyway, that's one of my favorite junk food places. Anyway, Graham, And I watched this hearing, and one of the spiciest exchanges was when Pam Bondi was in the hot seat.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, Pam Bondi is a smart woman, obviously very qualified to be the nominee for Attorney General. She was the Attorney General for many years of one of the most populous states in the country, Florida, of course. You know, she's no pushover. She's no shrinking violet, for sure. And of course, of all the people on a congressional committee that you can rely on to either ask a stupid question or to just turn it into a grandstanding piece of theater, other than Mazie Hirono, of course, who just beclowned herself at every turn during these confirmation hearings, is, of course, Adam Shifty Schiff. And he decided to make the terrible mistake of trying to go after Pam Bondi, and she just tore him up. I mean, she chewed him up and spat him out. And she actually pointed out in the hearing that, you know, he was censured right in Congress.
Now remind everybody watching today what your problems have been.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and she totally went. I mean, she ended up going after him every bit as much as he was going after her. She wasn't about to take that, and especially not from him, you know, because he's
right.
You know, everyone knows by now. It's not a controversial for me to say that he is a known serial liar. Everyone knows that now. And of course, he was censured for it. And you know, to this day, he has yet to produce the evidence that he has that shows that the Steele dossier was and the Russian collusion thing was all true. They've still never seen that. And I think he should be pressed firmly to show that, by the way. But that's another story. But anyway, Pam Bondi, yeah, great. But because she went after Schiff, or rather just simply defended herself forcefully against his stupid line of questioning, her advancement of her nomination out of committee has now been stalled by the Democrats for a week. They can do that in committee. Anything that is going to come out of a senatorial committee can be held up for a minimum of 7 days, and the Democrats have done that. So Pam Bondi's nomination is now on ice until sometime next week. And also, surprise, surprise, John Ratcliffe, who is the nomination to head the CIA, and again, very qualified to do that. We haven't heard much about him. But his nomination was advanced out of committee almost unanimously. I think there was like 3 votes against him. But it's advanced out of committee. But now the Democrats are using procedural mechanisms to block the full vote on him.
So can't accept defeat.
Yeah. You know, I just want to throw this in real quick. You know, ever since January 6th, 2021, when, to borrow from Ilhan Omar, some people did something, I've had this situation where the Democrats always go on about respecting the smooth transition of power. Well, the smooth transition of power, a big part of that is nominating, you know, is confirming the president's nominees for his new cabinet. And for the Democrats to be holding this up is another example of they don't really honor the smooth transition of power result.
Give you that.
Was it shocking?
Yeah, what a shocker. Well, guys, Trump's cabinet is coming together, whether the Democrats like it or not, and we await that 100-day mark to assess the success or failure of what the president has thought about for the last 4 years and what he wants to do next. Thanks, panel. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Inauguration Day was a joyous occasion for a lot of people, including Donald Trump and his entourage. He promised to usher in another golden age of peace and prosperity, and as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris looked on with disdain, to also fix what they messed up. It was one heck of a day, from tea with the old guard to dancing to the village people. So let's split this up, John Clark, and start with the ceremony. Give me some best parts from your perspective.
Well, I have to say, I've not generally watched these things, but I was really, really struck by the musical celebration. It was overtly Christian. I'm a Christian, and the Battle Hymn of the Republic was so potent, and the lyrics that let us die that all be free. It's just so kind of capturing the patriotism that I hope is uniting people. And as I watched, I was looking at the military personnel. My daughter's in the service. You don't always get to pick where your politics are. And I was wondering if those people were all united in that sentiment. And the next day, my dad called me and told me he watched it for 4 hours and that he really enjoyed the pomp. Well, that's interesting because my dad's a dyed-in-the-wool Biden-loving Democrat. He's also a U.S. Marine. As you may know, he's battling cancer that he picked up, multiple myeloma, in the Corps. And to have him say that, and then I reminded him, he used to sing that song to me. But for me, the high point was Donald Trump with a knife chopping a cake, doing the Polish people. I mean, our nation needs some humor, and some can't take it. So I just thought there was so much joy.
A little bit of joy goes a long way, doesn't it?
It was like, we're not going to let you crush our joy today, and you're welcome to join in if you want. And if not, well, maybe next month or maybe next year, but give us a shot and let's try to find that common ground that didn't used to annoy people if we sang patriotic songs. So to me, it was very refreshing.
I think I'd have to agree with you. Okay, now I want to kind of adjourn to the signing of executive orders, and I know Graham wants to talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, of course. And day one, as was promised, Trump did a kind of signed an avalanche of executive orders, most of which were signed back at the White House. Although, interestingly, they did sign a few. The first few that were signed in the Capital One Stadium in Washington, D.C. there, which I thought was interesting because I always thought, well, Trump said he's going to sign like 100 executive orders on day one. How is he going to do that? Because Inauguration Day itself, the ceremonies and the traditions, that's an all-day thing. It's like, how are you going to fit it in? So I thought it was interesting that they kind of integrated the signing of those first few executive orders in as part of the celebration. And I'm sure the crowd that was still there in Capital One Stadium enjoyed that because, they kind of made a spectacle out of it. And how many regular Americans ever get to see a president actually sign an executive order?
Exactly.
On TV.
Have him throw pens to the audience. That was cool.
And then he'll throw out the pens to the audience. Yeah, that was kind of cool.
That was kind of cool. And another thing I want to just briefly touch on that was kind of controversial was the J6 pardons. What do you think about that?
Well, if you're asking me, I'm all for it. I'm absolutely very glad that he basically. I think there's a few of the J6 detainees, let's call them. I'd prefer to call them political prisoners, but a few of the detainees, they didn't get full pardons. I think their sentences have been commuted, and they're still it's a case by case under consideration basis. I think that's some of the ones who were charged with, particularly specific acts of, assaulting police officers or vandalizing the building or whatever. But, a lot of these people got railroaded and I'm so glad that Trump basically pretty much gave a blanket pardon to the whole lot of them, because that whole thing was one of the greatest abuses of the criminal justice system in American history, in my opinion.
I think this whole panel would agree with you on that. Andrew, let's talk about what the rest of the world thought about our inaugural, with the joy and the pomp and the circumstances and all the smiles that were going on there. What's the rest of the world thinking?
Well, I'm very sure that the rest of the world is focusing on the executive orders, particularly on the trade front. Now, President Trump, I was going to say President Biden, but sorry, President Trump, he was supposed to impose sizable universal tariffs on the rest of the world, but that didn't happen. Instead, he signed a trade memorandum, which directs the Treasury, Homeland Security, and various other departments, agencies to study U.S. trade relationships and have currency policies of other countries, and no tariffs at all. But during his powwow with the press in that intimate White House setting, he said, yeah, I'm probably going to impose some tariffs on Canada and Mexico on February 1st. And then the following day, he said he was going to impose 10% tariffs on China. Now, the financial markets, they reacted positively because it looks like, as Scott Benson alluded to during the campaign, that he's softening his trade stance. So, Scott Benson, the U.S. Treasury nominee, he was talking about having tariffs layered in gradually, watering down this maximalist minimalist position, having targeted tariffs, and with his latest Russia comments, it seems like that's what he is doing. But overall, it was quite surprising because there was a press call earlier in the day, and they were alluding to some Wall Street Journal report, and it was supposed to have more tariff announcements going on, but that didn't happen. So it looks like for now he's softening his position on trade policy, and I guess more negotiations are happening on, because Justin Trudeau, Canada's prime minister, he said, okay, well, we're going to retaliate, and we're also going to shift from Heinz ketchup to French ketchup. So that's giving time for these genius politicians to consider other policies.
One of the things that I loved about this whole thing, this whole day, and I wonder if the LGBTQ is rethinking the fact that they might have to go to prison camps if this man got elected. I mean, the Village People, could you be any more indicative of an alternative culture? And they were invited and had a blast. I mean, as parties go, man, I'm sorry I missed it. So, where does this 47 celebration rank? I mean, who had the best time with all the muckety mucks, do you think, Dave?
Well, I have an advantage. I attended Ronald Reagan's second inaugural, the galas, a couple of receptions, and the balls when I was in the military. And I went also to George W. Bush's second inaugural events. And so I have something to compare these events with. And I believe that the crowd that had the best time and appreciated the privilege to welcome President Trump and Vice President Vance were the military officers and enlisted attending the Commander-in-Chief's ball. That was special. And you could just tell the attendees were grateful that the 4 years of leadership darkness were over. We talk about joy. They were truly joyful. It was, in my view, the best celebration.
I think the only two people that didn't smile were Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But, but still, they showed up. And a lot of them showed up. They didn't have to. And I give credit for putting aside all the snarkiness that has gone on for the last 4 years, all the meanness, all the lawsuits, everything that these people have all been through, whether any side of the aisle you're looking at. I thought it was a class act that they all showed up. Maybe didn't smile so much, but Bill Clinton smiled. He was having a good time.
Michelle Obama wasn't there.
Can I ask a question, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Trump didn't attend in 2020. What does that say about the class act? I'm asking.
I didn't think it was a class act because I think there was so much that people believed was so wrong with the 2020 election, and I'm not sure he would have ever. I don't think he would have done that. I think the Democrats are trying to prove they're better.
He's all applauding and smiling, despite saying that this was the last election in the future of the United States. So I find their reactions to the whole thing quite comical.
Well, I think we've passed the baton at least. I don't know.
Don't forget, in most of these events, there was free food. Never discount that.
I was invited to the Bill Clinton inaugural, the first go around, and I didn't go because I was a lowly paid government staffer. I didn't have the money to get there, to stay there, and to get a dress. So I had to skip that. But in my older ages, I didn't get invited. So there's that. Anyway. Well, Democrats and Republicans alike hope for the best in the next 4 years, whether they want to admit it or not. So let's usher in that golden age. Thanks, panel. Thanks for watching. The Department of Government Efficiency co-chair, Vivek Ramaswamy, has stepped aside to launch his Ohio gubernatorial campaign. That leaves Elon Musk holding the reins, as opponents are saying Musk is a shadow president. Ooh, the boogeyman. Can we even imagine Trump's ego allowing this to happen? No. So maybe they're just in it for the good of the order and not world domination. Politics has such random jargon, and the one thing I cannot stand is this shadow presidency being parroted by the masses. What are we even looking here? What are we looking at, Graham?
Well, yeah, Sarah, it's all rather silly because especially when you think that the mantra for, well, basically since 2016, the mantra from the left has been Trump is or wants to be a dictator. Now, I've read a history book or two, and I don't recall any dictator in the history of the world allowing somebody kind of to sit behind them calling the shots and they just act as the figurehead. That's not how wannabe dictators operate. So what is it? Does Trump want to be a dictator? In which case that obviously then Elon Musk is not the shadow president or not. But, originally the Department of Government Efficiency wasn't even going to be an official government department. It has basically become that now. It's now within the executive office of the president. And nobody seems to exactly have a clear picture of what it's going to do.
They're going to do?
And in fact, even Trump's executive order didn't make it out particularly clear. It just said fulfill the president's agenda, which is basically obviously cutting bureaucracy, cutting waste, cutting spending. It's going to be interesting to see how it all turns out. But no, Elon Musk is not. He's way too busy with firing off rockets into space and building more exploding electric cars and stuff like that. I mean, he's way too busy to be running the country as well.
He's got other things going on, I guess. Yeah. Dave, where does this leave the government accounting office? I mean, aren't they in charge of trying to keep things straight?
Well, if you're talking about another quasi-government enterprise swooping in as an interloper in what the GAO considers, its province, well, maybe there are some ruffled feathers. But the mandate is larger than fraud, waste, and abuse, I think. The GAO would probably never see its job as suggesting that, for example, notionally, the Department of Transportation moved to North Dakota. But DOGE would be well within its remit to suggest such a thing. And if it saved money and it made the overall government enterprise more efficient. So to really save the U.S. taxpayer real money, DOGE cannot trim around the edges. That just has never worked. These salami slice approaches to efficiencies have never been effective. This new efficiency arm of the Trump administration, I think, has to evaluate the purpose, the contribution of whole functions, divisions, and departments. And if they do not support the agenda of the president, dissolve them, because as people like to say, if the juice is not worth the squeeze, don't squeeze.
Does this mean my frog mating study for $1 billion goes away?
I think so.
Then we get it. I think we need to know this. Don't we need to know that?
Well, frogs everywhere. Tadpoles.
Frogs are everywhere. Andrew, since we're talking about cutting things back, what's going to become of the Festivus report? That going to be just something that disappears into thin air?
Okay, well, first of all, I'll say I don't disagree anything that Dave said. And if DOGE does anything, one of the first things it should
do. Oh, Lord, are you two going to fight?
Bro, it's target the Pentagon. That's the first thing they should do. But anyway, I'm going to be the resident skeptic here. I'm going to say DOGE will not achieve its intended objective. So to answer your question directly, Sarah, there will be another Festivus report later this year. So no matter how much I love Elon Musk, he will not slash $2 trillion in spending. He even admitted this himself in an interview. He said that it's more realistic that the DOGE is going to find about $500 billion in savings. It's a good start, but it's not going to go, as Dave alluded to, it's not going to go after the meat and potatoes. The bureaucratic state is too big. There's no way that you're going to stop $20,000 on drag queen shows in Peru. That's not going to happen. And if you look at the meat and potatoes of the budget, let's look at the Congressional Budget Office. That's the nonpartisan budget watchdog. It recently released its 10-year budget outlook. And let's look at 2025 alone. $4.3 trillion in mandatory spending, Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid. $1.85 trillion discretionary spending, and $1 trillion in net interest payments. That is what's driving the fiscal deterioration in the United States, is the continued increase in mandatory spending. By the time that budget window is closed, mandatory spending is about $7 trillion, about 2/3 of the budget. cumulatively, interest payments are about $13-14 trillion over the next 10 years. Overall, even before the Trump tax cuts, you're looking at $24 trillion increase in the national debt over the next 10 years. This is absolutely astounding. DOGE will not tackle any of this. They're not willing, because Trump even said he's not going to touch Social Security. He's not touching Medicare. Russell Vought, his top budget chief, he admitted the same thing in his 2 Senate hearings. Not going to happen. So DOGE, may put together some, easy victories, but the large scale of things, it's not gonna make much of a difference. And I've got on record this. I've said this on LN Radio. I've said this in Swaponomics. I've said it before on C5. So put me on record.
I think you put yourself on record there. Okay, I'm going to circle around right back to Elon Musk and what he's going to do. Where is he even going to start, Clark? Where is he going to just go, I am going to whack this program right now?
Well,
Probably with dogs.
I think the frogs could go, and the Peruvian drag queens, the low-hanging fruit. They may find it, but as I think I have to agree with Andrew, they're not going to take the big bite they hope to because of entitlement spending. I do think they should look at the Pentagon. I'm sure Dave would agree. Every agency, as Dave said, needs to be analyzed for efficiencies. The idea that he's a shadow president is just absurd. Of course, there are all kinds of people there. The same people are saying that Elon Musk was doing Nazi salutes. So that shows. Sure.
What is that about? Oh, yeah,
I didn't mean to go there. To me, that's just shows how extreme they are.
Right, you went there, so
I mean, well, it was just an aside.
Everybody's losing their mind.
It was an aside, but so I think that there is a lot of negativity out there. In fact, I think Andrew has been a little bit negative. For this reason, I think there is fraud within the entitlements. I think you have to start somewhere. And I think right now in this environment, if Donald Trump said that Elon Musk was going to help him put out the fires in California, and then the detractors say, oh, you can't put out the fires in California. They're mandatory entitlements. You still got to try. And Musk has shown that he's moved past the rhetoric and towards the pragmatism. He's not just going to eliminate jobs, which is only about 2% of the budget, but that's still potentially pork or waste. Sometimes they don't show up to work, so they need to go, just like any business. And Musk has a history of firing people. He won't have that authority. He's largely there in an advisory capacity. He'll be working with the Office of Management and Budget and other agencies as directed in the EO to proceed, I think, more cautiously than just a sweeping change. And, Donald Trump also said, I believe that this was going to have to do with increasing the efficiencies of government. That's certainly something within his purview of his expertise. He's an accomplished person with IT. So I think he's also indicated that he'll be cautious. And there are suggestions that he will put DOGE personnel in all these agencies so they can be there for a while, because that's really what you need to do. I think we agree is get boots on the ground. You don't just come in like one more giant bureaucrat, start cutting everything, because you create harms and histrionics. So I think a cautious approach, I think it's really needed. And I don't know how anybody can be negative against that. And I would say that probably everybody here is more knowledgeable of history than I am, but I would have to agree with Graham that in all my study of history, I've never seen a dictator dance to village people and cut cakes. So I just think the whole, it's just, I think that
you don't know what Kim Jong-un does behind closed doors, though. You never know.
As soon as we get out of here today, guys, we're gonna crank up the village people and do the dance. So I'm just saying.
I'm just going to throw in one quick thing. I have the best idea for actually making the Department of Transportation more efficient, and that's what you do. And what you do is you force the entire Department of Transportation, half of it to operate out of a couple of rail cars, and half of it to operate out of the back of a couple of 18-wheelers, and you have the whole Department of Transportation traveling around the country by road and rail all year, permanently, and they'll soon sort out the transportation problems when they have to experience that themselves.
They have to deal with it, and that is a perfect idea. I think you need to send that off to the Donald. I don't know, but cutting government waste is a good thing, right? I mean, come on. And I think it depends on what administration has what pet projects they want to accomplish, and we'll probably never get where most Americans would like to be on the budget. But hey, let's give it a whirl. I say go for it, Elon Musk. See what you can do. We'll keep you in the loop, guys. Thanks for watching, and thanks, panel. Hey, we're back to have a little fun with the panel in a very cold and blustery season where we're all a little bit over winter. Andrew Moran, our economic comic, swears he has a special show planned for you all today that will warm the cockles, or whatever the Canadians say, of your heart. So, Andrew, take it.
I've never heard of that word cockles. But anyway, actually, I'm not, for one thing, for the second straight, just for fun, if our viewers don't know, Santa Claus came on the show, and to actually have another special guest planned for Just for Fun. And I can't believe it. I pulled some strings. I know some people, and so this gentleman's going to come on. So bye, everyone. Have a good time.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Hold on to your hats, folks.
This is not going to be a Groucho Marx beard and
he's looking up cockles.
Surprise, surprise. Does anybody know what he's going to do? Let's see. Oh,
Uh-oh.
it's 47. But he fell over. Oh, it must be
Oh, oops.
Weekend at
That'd be
Bernie's.
46 then.
I'm Joe Biden. If you like what you see, help out. Yeah. Andrew Moran. Sorry, pal, if I got your name wrong. Asked me to appear on the show called D3 Trivia.
Okay, Mr. Former President. Nobody can hear you. You're going to have to bring Andrew back.
Am I being impeached? Am I being impeached
You're
from
being
trivia?
evicted.
Retired.
You're retired now, Papa.
Wash it off the formaldehyde.
I cut a hole in that.
see, we should have invoked Schumer and Pelosi to ask him to leave the microphone.
I can't
And of
believe
course,
I pulled some strings. You guys don't want to talk to President Biden?
What
Not
did he
from
have to say
Canada.
to?
I did.
His lips weren't moving, Andrew.
I did everything I could. Anyway, okay, so let's get started here. I'm so disappointed now. Question 1. About how much is the reported annual salary of Janice Quinones, the head of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power? Is it $750,000, $500,000, or $125,000?
Hey,
750,000.
It says here the answer is $500,000.
That's too much.
what?
That's actually wrong. It's
wrong.
750,000.
It says right here. I'm looking right at it.
Well,
750,000.
Well, it's wrong. It is wrong.
Uh-oh. Who's
Well,
in trouble for
President
trivia
Biden-
this week?
I put together this trivia list. I can't help it. You know,
You're
I'm
still
really
being Biden.
prepared.
Yeah.
And you guys kicked him off unceremoniously. So I'm going by what he did. Question number 2. How many pages was volume of one of Jack Smith's recently released final report on the case against President Donald Trump and his alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election? Was it 84, 174, or 224?
B 174.
Correct, 174. Oh, question 3. I know Sarah will get this one. What is James Carville's nickname? Timmy Two Toes, the Raging Cajun, or
Ragin'
Corporal the
Cajun.
Marvel?
The Raging Cajun
That's
spitting
right,
kitten.
Sarah. Yeah.
He's a spitting kitten now. He's not the Raging Cajun anymore.
Question 4. In a recent report by the Congressional Budget Office, how much money in appropriations was tied to expired authorization? 120 million, 516 billion, or 1.2 billion dollars?
516 billion.
Yes, that's right, Dave. Good job. Question 5. According to the December jobs report, the U.S. economy created how many jobs? 390,000, 256,000, or 430,000?
B 256.
No, President Biden, you did not create 16 million new jobs. Stop saying that. That never happens. Anyway,
Give him an ice cream and let him play with your kids. No, wait a minute. Give him an
No,
ice cream
No, don't.
and keep your kids away from it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That was
Yeah.
oops. All right.
President Biden, we have a question for you, actually. President Biden, during his farewell address, was concerned about the potential rise of what in America?
Oligarchy.
The tech industrial
Yeah,
complex or the bird flu?
Tech industrial complex.
That is correct. Question 7. The House of Representatives passed the Preventing Violence Against Women by Illegal Aliens Act on January 16. Who introduced the bill? Nancy Mace, Parilia Jayapal, or Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Nancy Mace.
Nancy Mace.
Is this going to be one of those things here where Dave gets all the questions right? I mean, I'm sick of
I
that.
got that one.
I got that one.
You got that one?
I got that one too.
yeah.
Everyone got that one.
Yeah.
Question 8. In front of which committee did... we just had a segment on this. In front of which committee did billionaire Scott Bessent, President Donald Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary, have his confirmation hearing on January 16th? Was it the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senate Finance Committee, or Senate Committee on Foreign Relations?
Senate Finance Committee.
Me.
Yes, this committee. Question 9. A January paper issued by the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft revealed that many think tanks get most of their funding from politicians, other think tanks, or foreign governments.
C. Foreign governments.
Foreign governments.
Foreign governments is the answer. And last question. During his farewell address, President Joe Biden referenced which former president when issuing a warning to many Americans? Dwight D. Eisenhower, Franklin Pierce, or William McKinley?
Dwight Eisenhower.
Dwight Eisenhower is the question. Guys, I'm sorry. President Biden really wants to say bye to you guys. So he's coming back. He's coming back.
Oh,
What have you done, Sarah? What have you done?
Frank,
I don't know.
help us in the editing room. Oh,
Hey! Papa! Over here. Hey, there you are.
Hey, guys, I love being on C1. Thank you. Thank you for me being on the show. My friend Andrew, he let me on the show. I'm really happy. Goodbye.
All right, Papa.
Goodbye, Susan. Susan, thank you. I love you.
Goodbye. All right, folks. Thanks for playing again, and hope you enjoyed Joe Biden. And we hope we left you with
Hopefully for the very
mild
last time.
and less confusion than we are all experiencing right now. Thanks, guys. Thanks, panel. Thanks, Biden. Let's move on. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all as well. Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Now, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today. For the latest news and commentary, your choice for free thinking, free speech, libertynation.com.